March 1st to order. Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Present.
Counselor Mellon, Counselor Gardner,
Present.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Present, physically.
I know, I had to make that note. Everybody's here in person tonight, except for Mrs. Mellon. And President Kulturitis.
Present.
Very good.
All right. Please stand for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. That brings us to open to the public. In-person public comments is limited to 2 minutes, maximum per person, or 5 minutes for group spokesman. Please keep your comments civil and constructive to public policy issues. The chair, at sole discretion, may recognize individuals wishing to speak on different topics at any time. May end open to the public session. All speakers will be timed by the clerk treasurer. This portion of the meeting shall not exceed 20 minutes. Is there anybody that wishes to speak?
Can I ask a question before you get to the stand? You can go up there. No, you're fine. I just.
I'm close, I can sit down.
No, Mr. Anderson, I just wondered, it's odd that there's only a couple people on the Zoom meeting. There's no one in the waiting room?
There is not anyone in the waiting room.
So interesting. Okay, my apologies. That's all I wanted to just double check.
I gotta have the steps in on this watch too.
Okay, one more.
Okay, Mike Dumovic, 1833 Tulip Lane. In the paper last week, there was an article about the water rate hike. And I was wondering if you could shed any more information on it other than a certain person wasn't a happy camper.
Sure. Dr. Andy, would you like me to address that?
Go right ahead.
Speaking of the microphone here. So there is a report attached to the agenda that was added late, so you can read that whenever you want.
Oh, okay.
But the long and short of it is there's no agreement that has been signed yet. There is agreement in principle on a number of the material items, such as the rates and the term, and then a bunch of other stuff. But again, the contract's still being sorted out. So one of the three big things that we're gonna experience as a wholesale customer is all wholesale customers are gonna get uniform contracts.
Mhm.
So all 5 communities, that's Whiting, Highland, Griffith, Dyer, and Munster, we have the same contract over the same term, and we're gonna pay the same rates.
Okay.
Those rates are in the memo. There's 10 years of rates. You'll recall that the initial proposed ordinance back in October contemplated a $1.90,
Mhm.
escalating to $2.30 over the course of 3 years, and then an inflator after that. The rates that we have been able to settle upon with the City of Hammond and the Hammond Waterworks Department begin at 95 cents per 1,000 gallons and go up to $1.60. So we end before they wanted where we wanted to begin.
Okay.
They have the option of either a 2-year or a 10-year extension of the contract after the initial 10 years. So there is the possibility of long-term rates. And if we do exercise as a community, if any community decides to exercise that 10-year option, those future rates are pegged to a proportion of the residential rate of the City of Hammond, right? So say if the residents of Hammond pay $1, we pay 69 cents, 69% of that. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so the water's going up, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Don't flush the toilet as often you
Yeah,
want.
there you go.
But I do think it's important that memo that Town Manager Anderson recollected was just uploaded late this afternoon, and it is in the board packet on the website, so you can see the full.
I don't know what time, but I didn't see it.
I would say it probably happened within the last hour.
Okay, that's
Yeah, it was a busy day. I got it in at 4:30.
But people are welcome to look at that, and it does have some of the rates and things like that in there. So
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Clark, and this is my husband Jim. We moved here 3 years ago from Illinois. We retired here. We love Indiana. We love Munster. We love our community. We live at 8306 Oakwood, right near Castle Drive. The problem we have is the water pipes broke, the main broke. And this was 10 days ago, and this was the second time in a matter of months, running down the side of our property, and we're dealing with just a mess. And so I called Mr. Anderson, and we talked about it. I understand he's been charged with looking at not only the water rates, but the water problems. And when I've talked to Streets and Sands, they were out there right away. There were a lot of people looking at the holes, cutting down trees. And it's been a mess. There's still, the first break was 3 houses in on Castle Drive. There's still, the fence is down. There's construction barriers laying around. What I want to encourage you tonight is to do not just a Band-Aid fix, but really fix our water pipes. And this is my 4th house. I've had to replace roofs on all 4. I've had done boilers. I've done wet basements. It's not stuff I like to do, but it's the adult thing, is you have to take care of infrastructure. And this is not acceptable. We have a world-class community here. And this easement on Castle Drive with the huge trees, this system needs to be replaced, not patched. It needs to be replaced. And that means moving it, putting it in the parkways where you can get at it and it's safer and those trees aren't destroying it. The trees are also taking the power out all the time when they fall on the lines, but that's another issue. But anyway, please, I appreciate you being here tonight and your service to the community, and that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, and welcome to Munster. And we are doing some studies in regards to all the pipelines, so we can try to be a little more proactive with that. Unfortunately, 2 in such a small time period can get a little frustrating to a new person into the area, but thank you for your comments. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody pop in online, Dustin?
One resident is in attendance online.
No questions?
No questions.
All right, I will close the open to the public. That brings us on to the consent agenda. Is your pleasure?
Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and President Kulturitis.
Yes,
4-0.
great. There is no old business. That brings us down to new business. Under new business, we have Ordinance 1818, refinancing of the Series 2011 Economic Development Bonds.
Thank you. You saw a similar measure about a year ago on the same item for the Series 2010 bonds. So at a previous council meeting, you gave your permission for the town to engage with our partners for this work. And what you see tonight is an ordinance that formally allows the town to refinance the Series 2011 bonds. There are some resources that detail the potential financial impact for this refinancing. In short, the town looks to save between $240,000 and $290,000 a year. So this is a significant savings to the town of Munster. I encourage you to consider this. The recommendation does contemplate waiving the rules and passing on first read. That is not necessary. If you would prefer to see this at the next council meeting, you can do so.
Thank you, Dustin.
I would move to suspend the rules, waive the second reading, and adopt ordinance 1818 for the refinancing of the Series 2011 Economic Development Bond.
We can't do that with one person missing, correct?
No, we can't. It would just take, it takes a 4-0 vote, though.
Right, yes. Right. Is there a second?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
It's a no-brainer. I mean, 2.4 to 2.9 million over 10 years for just like refinancing your home.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda is the purchase of utility tractor boom arm mower.
This is in our repair and replace schedule for our 5-year capital improvement plan. We would like your permission to trade in the old tractor and arm for $13,500 and purchase with a net price of $11,857.60 a new tractor and boom arm for the use of the maintenance of our right of ways.
Therefore, I will make a motion to approve the purchase of the Bengal Series utility tractor boom arm mower with trade-in value of $13,500 for a net price of $111,857.60 from Sourcewell to replace unit 354.
I will second that motion, and I can't help but say boom.
All right, any discussion?
I guess I had a question. Is this the first time we're using the Sourcewell approach?
We've used this for other equipment in the past. If you pressed me on what items we've purchased, I couldn't recollect off the top of my head, but if you'd like a report on what items we've purchased through this arrangement, I can do that for you.
I didn't need to know the detail, but just curious, is that like a helpful process? Is it?
It can be, it can be very helpful. Yeah.
Any hiccups with using that?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Perhaps the clerk treasurer's office has some insight if it's an easier or more complex transaction. But from my perspective, it's pretty straightforward, and it's very easy for our department heads to find things in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, I like that if we're keeping administrative, make things easier.
It also allows, I use it in my profession over in Illinois and throughout the United States. It also allows a town, if they're comfortable using certain types of equipment that's better, you can get a better quality mower that even in a bid process might come in a little bit higher, but it's better quality. And so you can for sure that, and it also eases the process where you don't have to use so much of the bid process and all that time. You can go and get something. So it's a good worthwhile program. And I would say there's many different towns and municipalities in Illinois and Indiana and throughout the United States that use it.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and President Kulturitis.
Yes. It brings us to purchase 9 additional GPS wireless plans for the public works vehicles.
So we have the physical transponders. What we don't have is the plans to activate them. What we'd like is your permission to activate those transponders to track our fleet more fully. We use this really heavy in the winter and then in the summer to track how fast we're moving site to site for mowing and things like that. It's also a really useful item when you consider the risk mitigation and your interactions with residents. So you might get a call in my office saying there was someone tearing down the street. And I can say, well, between what time and what color was the truck? And I can say with a certain amount of specificity that car was going, and then you can have a conversation, a teachable moment with that employee. Or you can say that wasn't mine. I'm sorry to say that's not accurate. The town wasn't there. And we can do that because we have this technology. So it has proved to be very useful, both as a management tool and a risk mitigation tool.
Does it show miles per hour?
It does.
Oh, so if someone was tearing down the street, but if they were actually going the speed limit, you would have that.
Yeah, so we can run exception reports, right? So we can put a geo boundary on, like, what are you doing over in Griffith? Well, there's actually a part that I needed to pick up. Okay, well, that makes sense. Or how often are our vehicles reaching 45 miles an hour? Where are they local? Where are they going 45 miles an hour? So there's all kinds of reports that you can run.
Right.
I would make a motion to approve the acquisition of 9 additional wireless plan required to enable the ABL feature for 9 more fleet vehicles.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes. That brings us down to reports, and the only one we have on there was the one that Dustin briefly mentioned in regards to the wholesale water rates. Did you want to add anything else to that? You're pretty thorough and open to the public with that.
No, I'm very pleased with where we ended up. I think it works for both parties. We need water to come from Hammond reliably, and they needed additional funds to produce that reliability to give us safe potable water. I think this is fair to our residents, and as you've alluded to, the town is taking steps to make sure that we are going to ensure the responsible management of our local utilities, water, storm, and sewer. And this is the first step in a number of potential steps that you'll have the option to consider.
I think Ms. Clark's comments during open to the public is also important testimony for the cost of services study, and that we really take an approach to upgrade the infrastructure system. Absolutely.
All righty, brings us down to portfolio reports.
Mr. President, I would like to just make a short report from the Board of Safety. The Munster Police Department is volunteering contracting with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, the CALEA process that we've talked about, to work to reaccreditate and thereby continue to demonstrate the professional excellence and adherence to standards concerning the best practices in law enforcement. The Munster Police Department have been accredited since 2008 and is currently seeking its 4th reaccreditation. Therefore, in the upcoming weeks on March 8th and 9th, an assessment team will be completing final assessments and interviews to verify that Munster has remained in compliance since its last accredited. As part of this reaccreditation process, CALEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, their assessors will be conducting public hearings intended to provide interested citizens or employees of the agency an opportunity to address this assessment team concerning the agency. The public hearing will be held on Tuesday, March 9th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be done, I believe, via Zoom, and the phone number to speak with an assessor is 219-836-6921. So if anybody would like to attend that public hearing, please call 219-836-6921.
Are there any other reports?
Well, let's say 3 short things.
There you go.
With the Lake County Solid Waste Management Board, since last March, we have been meeting by Zoom with Zoom. It's a fairly long drive from here to Crown Point. Sometimes takes me 45 minutes, maybe more if I get trains or bad traffic, for a 25-minute meeting, and then turn around and have to drive back. And that's nothing compared to what the residents from Whiting have to do. Zoom has been a godsend. And after the pandemic is over, it would be very nice if governmental bodies were allowed to continue using it. We have the opportunity for people who are shut in to attend our meetings through Zoom. And it's worked very well. The park department is kind of interesting. All the park board members, although they have the meeting, the staff is in this room, and the Zoom is open for anybody who wants to attend, but the park board members all Zoom. And so Mark sits here with his staff, and all the board members are remote. But this also means that it saves them time for driving to the town hall in the middle of the day, because both of them are daytime meetings. And so that's good for the council members, I mean, for the board members. The one exception is the Hammond Sanitary District. Mike Hawkins and I have both tried to get them to use Zoom. I would particularly like it because they meet in a room 1/3 this size, and people are sitting, closer than this chair is to that one. Although, we wear masks, it's difficult. And so within the last 2 weeks, I sent a letter to the district suggesting, and I'm not a member of the board, I'm a liaison. Mike is a member of the board, and he's got no forward motion on it. And unfortunately, I didn't even get a return email. But anyway, I don't know if a resolution from the council to the General Assembly someday, not to Hammond, Wendy. I saw that. To the General Assembly, just in general, supporting the technology. I understand entirely why it wasn't electronic, speaker phones and things like that, proxy votes were not allowed before, because I firmly believe that you need to be present to hear the arguments before you vote. And proxies can't do that. But with Zoom, you can. You can be at home, you can see people. I know the faces of the board members of the solid waste group better than I did when we were attending in person. The 23 of us on the board. Dave?
Yeah, Ken, if I could just, so there's two different things you're kind of talking about there that I want to kind of break apart for a second.
Okay.
Prior to the pandemic, it was always permissible for a municipality to live stream via social media, YouTube, or any other mechanism, so that residents or people who couldn't attend the meeting could view it in that manner. What was impermissible prior to the pandemic was members of the board attending either telephonically or via video. Okay, and that changed with Governor Holcomb's Executive Order number 8, which was part of his, now there's a bazillion of them, but for a while there, we were watching every single executive order, and they were coming out like 3-4 a day. Executive Order number 8 was the first order that said there's a statute in Indiana that says you cannot proxy and you cannot, in this situation, and there are exceptions, but you can't proxy and you can't participate by phone or video. His Executive Order number 8 said, well, in light of the pandemic, we're changing that. And during the time that I've declared an emergency, which is still going, a board member can now appear, and has been for the last 9 months, well, 11 months now, able to appear telephonically, which is why, or via video, which is why we've been able to do these Zoom meetings. My understanding is that one of the first acts, and I haven't talked to him about it, so I don't want to, I'm not speaking out of turn, but my understanding is that our state representative, Mr. Andrade, one of his first acts as a state representative was to put forth legislation to change the statute to allow this to happen in perpetuity. So I don't know where that House bill is at, if it got out of committee or where it was, but you're not the only guy, I guess, that is saying, hey, this Zoom stuff that brought us into the 21st century with the rest of private industry, which has been doing it for years and years and years, and Steve can tell you all kinds of stories about it, is a good thing for all the reasons you talked about. So we'll see where it goes, I guess, would be the way with regard to whether or not board members can continue after the pandemic to appear by video, if that statute does change. But members of the public can always observe it.
Okay.
So it's two different, one issue, kind of an A and a B, right? Like, who can attend by video?
I guess I knew about this live streaming because we started that, I think before the pandemic started. But the Zoom, I mean, I never heard of Zoom before the pandemic started.
Well, and it's nice even for your professionals, right? Like, there's no travel time for us. So like Lee Randall was able to come to how many of our meetings and give you a report. You know, I assume Lee was either sitting in his office or his house, one of the two, right? And able to give you a report at, you know, in a very convenient way, and you were able to get the information, so.
And we could ask questions, and it was just as good as if you were here.
Right.
Although I did miss it in today's meeting. We got to the,
I think what you're saying, Ken, pardon me if I'm wrong, is you're putting forward the idea of a resolution from the council that Mr. Andrade or others could use as evidence that there is local government support for the perpetuity extension of participation, voting participation by board members.
And just with the groups and the municipal entities that I represent, your feeling, Ken, is unanimous. Do you know anything more about what AIM is doing?
I do. So AIM is in favor of this legislation. I can tell you that the comments coming out of committee were not positive for seeing this happen. They contemplate allowing attendance but no voting was the last markup of the legislation that I saw, which is kind of like the status quo before, where if you had Zoom, you certainly could attend, but you couldn't vote, right? Perhaps you could participate in the discussion, but you could not vote. And I think the sentiment of where those legislators were coming from is they didn't want to facilitate a situation where, you know, maybe you were a council member in, you know, Munster, and then you depart for Arizona for, you know, 6 months of the year because Northwest Indiana weather is so delightful, right? But you're still a council member, right? Not to say that that is a thing that happens here, but it is conceptually, you know, with the technology, there could be bad actors, is where those comments were coming from at the committee level. Where it goes, I don't know. I know that AIM is in favor of this legislation because you're right, uniformly, it makes life so much easier for elected officials, staff, and contracted professionals. Like, everybody who does the work loves it. So all we can do is signal to the legislature that we do indeed appreciate the opportunity to conduct business like this.
thank you.
Steve, you good?
I have no portfolio.
Thank you. Wendy, you had any
No,
report?
I'm good,
You're
I'm good, thank you.
All
Yeah,
right, beautiful.
I'll bring my list next time.
All right, thank you. All righty. It brings us down to announcements. March 8th, no meeting. March 15th, regular town council redevelopment commission meeting. March 22nd, no meeting. March 29th, no meeting. April 5th, the regular town council redevelopment commission meeting. April 12th, there is no meeting. That brings us down to adjournment.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending.
I was going to say something before the meeting. I was going to say something, send an email to either you or Wendy, and of course I forgot until
All right.
Andy read it out loud.
Here we go. I will bring the redevelopment commission regular meeting for March 1st, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schoon,
Present.
Commissioner Mellon, Commissioner Gardner,
Present.
Commissioner Tulowitzki,
Present.
and Commission President Kulturitis.
Present.
And I think I see, hi, our
All right.
liaison, John Castro, our school board liaison, is here in person as well. Nice to see you, John.
Nice to see you all. It brings us down to open to the public. Is there anybody that wishes to speak at this meeting? Is there anybody online? I will close the open to the public. That brings us down to consent agenda. Mr.
President, I will move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schoon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Commission President Kulturitis.
Yes. There's no business. Under new business, we have resolution 054, pledge resolution refinancing of the series 2011 redevelopment bonds.
So this resolution is a first cousin to ordinance 1818. And this resolution merely says that when you do refinance the bonds, you will use a certain portion of the increment to pay for the refinance principal and interest of the refinanced bonds.
Beautiful.
I would, go ahead.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 054, which pledge certain tax increment revenues to the payment of certain economic development revenue bonds.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Excuse me. Commissioner Schoon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Commission President Kulturitis.
Yes. There are no reports, there are no announcements. That brings us down to adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending.